Hi, good morning here from Los Angeles. Valerie Milano, aspiringmagazine.com and the Hollywood Times. I want to welcome our guests, and I'm going to let them go ahead and introduce themselves. Thank you so much.
I am Perette Barella. I'm director of Are You Sure?
I'm Opal Wright. I am the writer and lead actress in Are You Sure?
Thank you again for being with us. Are You Sure tells a story of patience and frustration that is an all too familiar experience for our transgender sisters and brothers as they begin their medical transitions. The gauntlet of gatekeepers and their penchant for repeatedly asking, "Are you sure?" is maddening as we progress through this story from dysphoria to authenticity. Um, First, let me say, wow. My managing editor, who is transgender, watched this with me, and by the end of the film, she was screaming at the screen, as y'all both were, I'm sure. She says, "Bravo," by the way. The frustration is palpable in your film, and the growing frustration came across like a bolt of lightning. And the line of medical professionals asking the same question over and over again is just right, the bit of salt to the open wound. I am guessing you lived this story. Am I right?
Uh,
Both of us.
yes, and something very similar at the very least. The first scene with the doctor, where he became very flummoxed and said, "Well, I can't perform surgery on you," was actually a bit of a toned down version of what happened when I first went to a doctor to get a referral. Um, it's it became a lot of, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Well, do you know what's involved with this?" And at every step of the way, it was consent forms. It was 10-minute lectures on here's what's going to happen. It was, "Are you sure?" 10 times over, at every step. The only person who was particularly supportive in the process, I mean, aside from obviously my wife, but the only professional person in the process who was supportive was the therapist, and I think that probably shows through in the movie.
Certainly, there are those who will say, well, they are just doing their jobs, making sure, but it is it is easy to see how this gauntlet of gatekeepers can have a serious detrimental effect on someone, isn't it? Talk about that a little bit.
It is, and it has negative side effects beyond just the frustration. We have a friend who was trying to work with the medical system and was constantly stymied by the gatekeepers who wanted more and more proof that she was sure. Um, Getting in to see a psychiatrist is incredibly difficult. They have a difficult job with enough patients as it is. Getting in for a one-off is not very easy. Um, and she was having trouble getting people to see her. She didn't have a lot of the money to do it, and she wound up going to a body modder of all people, who then basically did a back alley surgery to basically mutilate her genitals in a way that she could then go to the insurance company and say, "Well, now you have to do reconstructive surgery." These gatekeeping tactics, these roadblocks, I was very lucky to be able to move through them. I have good insurance. I have good support. We make enough that we're comfortable. We're not wealthy. We're not weeping. But anybody who doesn't have those advantages is constantly stuck, having to fight like hell. And it was a fight for me, but I was lucky that I was able to move forward a little bit better than most, or a little bit more easily than most. And even then, you see everything that came up in the process.
What is the answer? Education for all medical professionals in managing this aspect of their care, or is this just something that will become less of an issue over time?
I think medical education is going to be a large part of it. I think another thing that's showing up is you're starting to see more queer focused and queer centered medical providers. There is a medical practice here in town called Trillium Health. They're very focused on queer folks, and it's not just trans people. That includes folks with HIV. It includes gay folks who are, dealing with particular issues related to domestic partnership versus marriage when it comes to rights to visit in the hospital. They provide social workers. They provide community support resources. They provide a lot more than just going to the family doctor. And it's because some of those needs aren't met by your standard medical practitioners. So I think there will be sort of a combination of educating more medical professionals and having more medical professionals who work more closely with the LGBTQIA plus community.
You both are married, correct?
We
Yes.
are.
Yeah. So, Perette, how did y'all meet? Talk about that a little bit.
We met in 2017 at a camp for like-minded individuals, and we ended up there together. We actually talked ahead of time. There's a little camp website where we can create profiles and try to meet people ahead of time. And she had this super nerdy thing about being a Python programmer and C++ programmer, and I started hassling her on that, and that started a conversation, and it just grew into it grew into something that, when we finally met at camp, blossomed into a relationship over the week. So
Sweet, sweet. You both play your roles to perfection. Opal as the increasingly
Thank you.
impatient patient, and Perette as the unsympathetic surgeon. Have you encountered doctors like these or worse?
oh God, yes.
Yes.
So the array of doctors I encountered were initially the counselors, who were gay guys who didn't really understand why I wanted to be trans and were convinced I should just be gay because it would be so much simpler. Well, if it was, it doesn't really make sense. If it was so much easier to be something else, why couldn't they just be straight? No, you have to be what you are. So I eventually left them behind, and yeah, all along the way, there were sort of these a whole bunch of people that thought they knew better about how to live my life or how to run my life than I do. One of the doctors that is the psychiatrist in the script that Sarah has to see is this sort of old, crusty guy who really just seems detached and not really interested, but like he knows more about what's going on with Sarah than herself. And that is from Opal's experience. But I think the reason this film resonates with other transgender people is I had that doctor too. Not this literally the same one, but encountering that same old crusty guy who really doesn't care about anything, it feels like, except wanting my money. And it's frustrating to go through. The process, I went through all this 30 years ago. I had thought it got better, and then she started going through it, and boy, it really seems just as terrible as back then, which is kind of sad. But one of the things that I've seen that comes out of the doctors being so rigid and so demanding and so in control is, as a patient, I was going through this, and at some point I just clicked into, my job is to overcome these people. And that creates a problem, because when you're focused on overcoming that hurdle, you're not really reflecting on yourself or your internal narrative. You're just, okay, they've made this roadblock. How do I get over it? And the story that you should be going through as you go through transition is really reflecting on yourself. And okay, I've started this next step. Is that working for me? Yes. Okay, I'm going in the right direction. Let me take another step. Is that working for me? Yeah, let's keep going this way. And if you get to a point where you're like, this doesn't feel right anymore, that should make you reconsider what you're doing. But if you're in this mindset of, boy, these SOBs are in my way, I got to get around them, you don't have the brain capacity at the same time as you're frustrated and focused on solving that problem to be listening to that inner narrative that you really need to hear.
Yeah. Wow. Well, as we wind down here, I know you guys are going to be at the film festival, 29 Palms. What else are you doing with the film? How can our viewers, our readers, find the film, find you, social media, websites?
So the film will be at 29 Palms Film Festival on it's right around the solstice weekend.
Sunday.
It's on Sunday. Do you know the date, Opal? I probably have it here.
I think the 21st or 22nd. Whichever day Sunday is.
Sunday the
Yeah,
21st at
to the
noon
festival.
is the showing. So
yeah, we'll put it in the article as well.
yeah.
Okay.
So it will be there. Afterwards, we'll have it back up on YouTube and on our website at devioussfish.com/are you sure.
And
Do
if
you have
people,
anything, Sweetie?
and if people have questions or comments, how can they reach you both?
The website has our contact information on it. And after the festival, it should be available in standard definition, high definition, I believe. We also have subtitles in English and Dutch available, so those should be for anybody who needs captioning. Those are available.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for the time, for your time. And we are the HollywoodTimes.today and aspiringmag.com. And yeah, I'll probably see you at the festival. So thank you again. Have
We
a
look
great
forward
Okay,
to
thank
seeing
you.
you there.
day. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.